what does God mean to you?
Wow. Now, yeah. How to lose friends and alienate people on a podcast, yeah.
The last time I heard you say, one of the things that you teach a lot of your mentees, devotees and such is an I am statement. And the last time I heard you say yours, and I know it actually is, I am a divine and guided soul who acts as an open channel for God's wisdom, a powerful agent of positive change who is born to reveal the greatness in others.
Well done.
Thank you.
You rehearsed that one.
I know it, I just know it. In the context of that, what does God mean to you?
Wow. Now, yeah. How to lose friends and alienate people on a podcast, yeah.
Everyone's got their own interpretation of God. It might be inherently divisive, but I wonder what you mean.
I want to give a little context here, because some people bash religion. Some people avoid religion. Some people are so addicted to their belief systems around religion that they daren't question the beliefs they're most certain about. And the way that I see religion, and I've obviously looked at this in a lot of detail, and I'm not religious. I don't subscribe to organized religion. Do I believe in a higher power? How can you not? Right? When you, I think people like, the great, Christopher Hitchin, who's no longer with us, who was so focused on bashing religion that he threw the baby out with the bathwater like Richard Dawkins does. Right? They are material-based Newtonian paradigms that essentially come from a place of saying, no, there is no higher level spirit God. And what they're doing is they're trying to take away the downside of where I see the formation of how religions came about. And I want to kind of give a little insight into that, which may be helpful for some of the people, because a lot of the modern people now are starting to question. Religion is on a decline in many aspects, and let's take Christianity, for example. Right? And again, this is not meant to be disrespectful in any way whatsoever.
Sure. No.
The moral values that Jesus taught and the insight that Jesus brought was so far ahead of his time that unfortunately people can only hear from the level that they're at. And so if you've got somebody calibrating it as me that's talking to people that are in to me, they're not going to hear an as me message. They're going to hear a to me interpretation of an as me message.
Yeah.
And therefore, distortion becomes the norm. So, and let's give one example take the Old Testament, the Garden of Eden, right? A lot of modern people are saying, whoa, hang on a minute. So you've got this guy called, Jesus, who, right, was essentially was his own dad, who, if you surrender telepathically to him through a pledge of allegiance, he will remove a hidden curse from your body that was put there because some woman who was made out of a bloke's rib ate a magical apple because of a talking snake.
Yeah.
Now, you can understand why some people in modern society have an issue with that. But let's chunk back. 200 years ago, only 2% of the world was literate. Being able to read and write was the privilege of the elite. Either the scholars, or the religious teachers, or the village elders, or the aristocracy, or the political power. They're the only people who could read or write. So how has knowledge been passed down in human generations? For centuries. Through story, around the campfire. Because stories allow you to take somebody on a journey without having to memorize things by rote, which is why school doesn't work. That's why stories are so powerful. That's why Hollywood is bigger than education, right?
Yeah.
So how do you communicate in stories? What's the most powerful way? Well, metaphor. It's how the brain works. The brain likes to take something it doesn't know and put it over next to something it does know, and metaphors allow you to cross that divide. And so if you take the story of the Garden of Eden, what's the metaphor that's being shared? It's actually beautiful. It's a powerful story. You have the tree of knowledge and you have the tree of life. What should you not eat from? Don't eat from the tree of knowledge. How I interpret that is that, whoa, all you need is within you now. You were born good enough. You don't need something external in order to validate your sense of self. Once you know you've eaten from the tree of life, that you are all you are, there's nothing missing, you were born perfect, you can choose to go to the tree of knowledge if you wish. But how most people are conditioned is that I'm not good enough unless I eat from the tree of knowledge. Unless I get my degree, my MBA, my PhD, my whatever it is, my validation, my pat on the back from somebody else. No, you were born good enough. Eat from the tree of life. Yeah, you go to the tree of knowledge, you're essentially reinforcing the fear that you're not enough. And that's how I interpret something like that. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But if you start getting hooked up in the dogma of saying, no, there was a talking snake, right? I'm sorry, we've got a challenge, right? But if you go back 30,000 years, when it rained, we wondered why. Man looked up at the sky and it's like, what is this? We had a thirst for knowledge. Yeah, was God angry at us because he was crying? Or was he happy with us and he was sending us a gift to refill the rivers? We didn't know. So what does mankind do 30,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, whatever it may be, when we don't know? We do what we've always done. We project the unknown into what we actually know to give it some level of certainty. So we make stuff up by projecting what we know into it. And this is why God didn't create man in his own image. Man created God in his own image, which is why the early religions came through with a God that doesn't come from unconditional love. It comes from the projections of all of the faults of personality that were prevalent at the time, of fear, anger, wrath, retribution, which is how life was lived back then. That's how political establishments controlled, because the level of consciousness of humanity back then wasn't as high as it is now. And so today, we understand gravitation, precipitation, evaporation. And when it rains, we understand it. We don't get scared anymore. Now, it can still ruin your barbecue, but we're not afraid of it. So we don't make stuff up. So where religion came in is it was a vehicle with which to know the non-physical. Because we understood there was so much we didn't know, so we made stuff up to fill the gap. And we projected what we knew as best we could into stuff to try to give it some level of meaning. So back then, religion was a very good way at that time of being able to build a relationship to the unknown with the metaphysical, the non-physical. But guess what? Just as a horse and cart was a great way to get around Edinburgh 100 years ago, which was superseded by a car, which was superseded by a train, which was superseded by a jet, which was superseded by a rocket ship. Religion was a beautiful horse and cart that got people around to know the metaphysical back then. But there's better vehicles to know that now. Spirituality, understanding unconditional love, exploring consciousness. Understanding digital physics these days and the breach between the divine that doesn't come with rules and conditions that you have to say a Hail Mary every 20 minutes. That comes with rules that say you have to put money in the pot every Friday. That otherwise Santa's not going to come down the chimney. That stuff was great and served a purpose in my opinion. But there's better ways to know what we were trying to know back then now with a more elevated sense of consciousness, which if you look at the spiritual masters, Jesus never said, go read a book. Jesus never said, go to church on Sunday. Right? What Jesus said was essentially he was teaching unconditional love. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Do not judge lest ye be judged. As a man thinketh, so he is. You've got a way of him trying to interpret or give messages that point to you becoming a better version of yourself through basically raising love and lowering fear. And for 2,000 years, we basically increased fear around it if you didn't raise your love. And follow my rules. So that's how he differs from Buddha. The Buddha didn't teach unconditional love. The Buddha taught enlightenment, which is a whole different aspect. That's merging and union into oneness. Right? But the world wasn't ready for that in the West, or certainly from the sort of Judeo-Christianic interpretation, it was all about love. So, what is God? God is whatever label you want to put on the intelligence, the loving intelligence that governs this game. Yeah, and you can have infinite intelligence, you can have the quantum fields, you can have the divine, you can have nature, you can have evolution if you're a scientist, biologist, whatever. I don't care what label you give. The travesty of humanity is that we've gone to war for centuries and killed each other over whose label is right. Mm-hmm. So for me, what is God? It's part of the intelligence and the governing field of love that allows us to be part of this game, to grow and contribute, to be a better part of who we are. Are we a part of that? Yes, of course we are. Mm-hmm. You can't not be a part of that. And again, every religious spiritual master taught the same thing. Here's another analogy. You take 2 blood cells in your body, red blood cell and a white blood cell, both different colors, both born at different times, both going to die at different times, both got different jobs to do. One takes hemoglobin and delivers it around the body, and one takes bacteria and dumps it into the lymph. But your red and white blood cells coexist in harmony in the same environment called the bloodstream. And let's just say a red and white blood cell meet each other. They would have a sense of individuation. They would have a sense of individuality. You're a red blood cell, I'm a white blood cell. I have a different birthday and I'm on a different path. And we cross in the bloodstream. But we're part of a bigger organism called a human body. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't throw a funeral every time we lose a blood cell. But let's put that in a more local context. You have yourself or myself, and you have, let's say, somebody in India. 2 different colors, born at 2 different times, going to die at 2 different times, different paths in life. But what if we were just individual blood cells in the universal body of consciousness?
Yeah.
Would that upset people if it was a possibility? Would it help them reconcile the illusion of separateness?